Hello there, and welcome back. I am joined today by Forrest Sim, who is the founder and CEO of Enhanced Scanning, based in Southern California. And his company provides utility locating, concrete scanning, utility as built updates, and subservice investigations, say all of that 5 times fast, to help companies mitigate risk. And their mission is to provide informed, innovative, and creative solutions to many subsurface problems found in construction, engineering, and scientific communities, which is really cool. And he has been in the GPR industry for almost a decade and with an extensive background in business development and sales. And he's also founder of GPR Consortium. So, needless to say, great resource in the industry as well as busy entrepreneur. So, welcome, Forrest.
Thank you, Julie. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. And so, out of curiosity, we were talking before we got on, but starting in Southern California and now being able to offer your services and systemize and replicate what you do in other states, what would you attribute your growth to in your business?
The growth is attributed, in large part, it's due to my excellent employees that I have. They're just so um, committed to doing a very high quality, performing a high quality service.
Mhm.
And if I hadn't found these guys that I'm working with, then there's no way that I would have been able to grow the way that I have. It's just it is. Sure, there are things that I've done that my wife has done that there are other contributing factors here, but the largest single factor is finding the right people to work on your team.
Yeah.
And it's I'm just so indebted to them for
Mhm.
what they've done to grow the business.
Right.
It's them.
Yeah. And it's taking that technical work, which is how you
Mhm.
started, but then essentially being able to relieve some of that so that you can continue to grow the business.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I do a decent job at doing ground penetrating radar,
Mhm.
at interpreting that data and, thinking about how to provide solutions for my customers. I do a decent job at
Mhm.
all of that, but that's something that's, my employees also do a very decent job. They do a very good job at that. What I really shine with is, the business development and creating creative solutions to my customers' problems and doing
Yeah.
other things that don't require me to push a GPR antenna out in the field. And
Mhm.
so I've tried to outsource the things to others who
Yeah.
uh, outsource the things that I don't do very well to others who do them uh, much better than me. And
Mhm.
that's been something that's helped me actually quite a bit to be a lot less stressed as an entrepreneur, and
Mhm.
also just consequently free myself up to focus on growing the business.
Yeah. Was there a particular moment or time when you realized this could be much more than me? Or did you always have that in mind?
Um, it, it was always a hope that it could
Mm.
be much more than me,
Mhm.
because I knew that utility locating and concrete scanning can be a little tough on the body sometimes.
Mm.
There are some guys who do this for decades,
Yeah.
and that's phenomenal. It's not me. It's more than tough on the body. It's tough on the mind for me,
Mm.
because I have ADD and I just have a hard time uh, staying doing one thing for work
Mhm.
for years and years and years. That's just not been something that I'm able to do. The
Mhm.
only reason that I've been able to do this is that I started my own company several years ago. And so that's been a huge challenge and kept my interest a lot. And now I'm able to, I'm constantly able to look at what's new and coming up to and that helps my company stay relevant.
Yeah.
And it keeps me, for lack of a better word, interested,
Mhm.
because um, uh, I just get a little bored with things a little too easily, and maybe
Mm.
that's a lack of intelligence on my part. Call it whatever you want, but
Well, you
I
have you
have to
have your
move on.
areas of
And
interest, right?
yeah, I
So,
always have to be finding things
mhm.
that new things to learn. I'm an
Mm.
insatiable learner. and I just always have to be finding something else to learn.
Yeah. I was spoken like a true entrepreneur. I mean, you won't find an entrepreneur in the room that doesn't love to learn.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's the execution part, right? But then you hire the right people to help you execute,
It's exactly it. Yeah.
right? And then alternately, what would you say have been one of the biggest challenges that you faced in business so far?
Oh, I mean, one big challenge. You know what? Everybody that I talked to before I ever even thought about owning a small business, whom I asked about, hey, what's it like owning a small business, or what's the hardest thing about this? Everybody that I've ever talked to about it has at least mentioned cash flow.
Mm,
Uh, it's usually been cash flow and managing employees,
mhm,
and managing employees is a stressful aspect of the work for sure.
mhm.
Um, Much less stressful for me because I just have fantastic people
Yeah.
that I work with. But
Oh, yeah, you have to manage, right? They manage themselves and you
there's a lot less
lead,
managing.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But cash flow, just making sure that you're keeping track of what's coming in and what's going out,
Yeah.
and making sure that generally speaking, what's coming in is at least as much as what's going out.
Mm,
Um, I'm no accountant. I've got a great accountant. Again, that's not something I do well, but there are just being able to manage that
yeah.
on a day-to-day or annual basis
Mhm,
is for me difficult for sure.
mhm. Well, you have the resource of an accountant and most likely a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be an accountant or have, an accounting certificate or be a CPA to know what to do with the information. I mean, that's essentially the job as the business owner is like, okay, I have the information, it's up to date. Now I can use the information to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm guiding the business and my team appropriately. So, what advice would you give to a new or up and coming business owner regarding financial management?
Um, find a great accountant and bookkeeper. I just One of the things that's probably been the most it's been the most important thing that I've done, maybe not that's been done for the business, but that I've done personally to ensure the stability and the growth of my company is to is my ability to recognize and utilize resources. And
Mm,
sometimes those resources are other friends or peers in the industry, and leaning on them to help me to understand how to perform a particular process or bring on a new service. And sometimes it's just that recognizing a lack in myself. For example, the accounting, just knowing that like I am bad at this, and just keeping my eyes open for other people. What I've discovered is I have a friend at church. He
mhm,
owns an accounting firm,
mhm.
and so I started working with him, and he does a fantastic job. He and his team are just amazing. But being able to identify resources that will help my company to grow, and usually resources that will complement my lack,
Yeah.
has been a huge, uh, a just a huge benefit to my company. Without that, I would not be nearly as successful as I am. There's
Mhm,
a long way to go, but man, if you're just able to recognize lack in yourself
mhm.
and find some place to fill in that lack, then um, it's going to make things a lot less bad.
Yeah. I always say, you need to know enough to be able to hire the right people.
Right?
So, yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's a
Yeah,
great tip. You
absolutely.
heard it here, everybody. Get a great bookkeeper or or a CPA. Um,
Yeah.
it sounds like you have a great team. And I'm curious, what do you think has been your success as an employer or manager leader in finding those people and retaining those people?
In terms of finding those people, I feel like I've almost just been lucky.
Mm,
I mean, it's a fundamental part of my personality that I build and maintain relationships with people. And so, um, as I've, um, as I as my company develops to a point where I need to make a hire, I usually have a person in mind whom I've known for a good long time, or sometimes not, but oftentimes I'll have somebody in mind for as a new hire, simply because I've been building these relationships, these friendships anyway.
Yeah.
And it'll be in the back of my mind that, hey, that's the next person I should hire. Hey, I should try talking to her, or I should try talking to that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so just building and maintaining relationships has been hugely beneficial for me for building a team. Very, very important.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly, you have an extensive background in business development. And before we came on, we were talking about, if you're in business, you're in sales. And
Right.
so learning those skills and learning what works in your business as far as the sales process. But it sounds like part of your business development is also finding and then developing the right people too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's one thing to find the right person, but I mean, for a small business, for any business, you don't want much turnover, but for a small business, it's so vital to
Yeah.
avoid turnover because you don't have many resources in terms of cash or time or anything. Your
Mhm.
resources as a very small business are super limited. And so I find it, or I consider it extremely important to find the right person and then to hold on to that person
Yeah.
almost at most costs.
Mhm.
That means paying them well. That means giving them a feeling um, that they can come and talk to me about anything work related. Just having an amazing culture in the company. I can't afford to pay my employees the very best in the industry. I can't, I can't give them a lot of things that a larger company could, like amazing health benefits, something like
Mhm.
that. These are expensive things that I just can't afford to do, but I can give them a fantastic cultural feel in the company where I can outshine multi-billion-dollar companies in
Yeah.
terms of culture,
Mhm.
even if I can't do that in terms of uh, reimbursement.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember what the actual statistic was, but when, employees were interviewed, they said that, as long as their needs are met, and this is a generalization, right? You have to read the study. I wish I could remember where I read it, but money was important. But for most people, it was their relationship with their manager and the people in their organization and the culture, like they were part of something bigger. And so either way, if you can have all of it, great. But also, it sounds like what you're building is something that people want to be a part of, and they want to work with you, and they want to be on this mission, and they enjoy what they do. So that's huge as far as retention goes.
And when I agree completely. When we make a new hire, we actually spend 2 full days doing this Arbinger training, developing and implementing an outward mindset. And it's just we do that to kind of help us all be on the same page in terms of how to think about pretty much everything. It has implications in professional work for sure, but also in your married life, with your kids, with neighbors, with anybody, with all interpersonal communications.
Mhm.
Developing and implementing an outward mindset.
Yeah.
That whole training from the Arbinger Institute is phenomenal. So important that being a small business, we spend 2 full days doing that.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that we do with as a part of our onboarding process is that we have a strengths coach. We do a Clifton Strengths assessment for our employees, and then we have a strengths coach who does an analysis, helping us to figure out, like, okay, here's your new employee, Jim, and your new employee Jim has these top 10 strengths, and we already know your other employees. Jim's immediate supervisor and Forrest, you as the owner. These are your strengths. This is how you guys could probably work well together based on Jim's.
Right.
He really is an excellent communicator, and he really likes direct communication, and he
Mhm.
understanding how to be viewing the world through the same lens or very
Yeah.
similar lens with the developing and implementing an outward mindset with the Arbinger Institute. That's huge. And then just understanding how to communicate and work together
Yeah.
through Clifton Strengths coaching. Those are two huge aspects of our onboarding process that start this employment relationship
Mhm.
um, or off on a very strong foot.
That's great. Communication is a mirror. So
Right. Yeah.
and I appreciate that you do that, because it's not just about that individual, but it's how the your environment and your ecosystem, should we say,
Yeah.
is built. So that's very cool. And that's a great resource for those of you watching this. Definitely look that up, those two
Sure.
resources up. So, out of curiosity, with running a business and overseeing a team and, wearing, sounds like multiple hats, how do you have, I don't like to say balance, I use the word harmony, but how do you create harmony in your personal life and the demands of running and growing a business?
Um, that is a constantly moving target. If you want to use the word balance, if you see somebody balancing, whether on a bicycle or on a skateboard or on a ball or any situation, there are constant little micro adjustments being
Mhm.
made. I have never been, I mean, even when you're walking, you're constantly balancing back and forth. Our bodies are used to it,
Mhm.
but balance is never a static
Yeah.
situation that one achieves. Hey, yesterday, guys, guess what? I achieved balance.
Mhm.
I don't think that I've never heard anybody ever
You're
say
like,
that.
I got it. I got
Yeah.
right now.
Hey, finally
Everybody, right
arrived.
now.
We're done. We're done. So I'm going to retire today because yesterday I achieved balance. No,
Yes.
it's a constantly moving target for many reasons. One of which is that your situation is constantly changing. So I have 4 kids. I'm married
Mhm.
and I've got 4 kids, 12, 10, 8, and 6.
Wow.
And they have I've never been the father of a 13-year-old, but in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be the father of a 13-year-old.
Mhm.
And that's going to be different from being the father of a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And, recently, my 12-year-old, this was a few months ago, sometime in the summer, he mentioned to my wife, like, yeah, I hardly ever see dad. That's not my perspective. I work from a home office and
Yeah.
I feel like I see my kids all the time. This is great.
Mhm.
Every once in a while, I just walk out of the office and I just play with them real hard for 10 minutes and
Yeah.
wrestle with them. And then I go back in the office and I keep working. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm such a good dad.
Mm.
I'm amazing. I go out and play with my kids. They know I love them.
Yeah.
I'm so amazing. And then I find out that my oldest son thinks like, oh, I never see my dad.
Mhm.
I don't know anything about him. He's
Oh,
never around.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. That feels like a knife,
Yeah.
right? And so we got to change things up. So now my son and I ride bikes every morning for about a half hour. We go on a 4-mile bike ride
Right.
and we just chat and we exercise. I teach him how to ride a bike on a road. I teach him how to ride a bike on a gravel path, and it's great. So that has required some adjustments,
Mhm.
and I was not doing this in the spring or last year or 5 years ago, and so my life today is very different from that, or
Mhm.
from what it was even
Yeah.
just a little bit ago, because I had to change that. I had to change that balance because
Mhm.
I am not
Adjustment.
willing to
Yeah.
sacrifice anything for my son not feeling like he has a relationship with his dad.
Mm. Well, and how profound that he says it, right? Versus keeping it in or having a feeling about it. He expressed it so that you can make that adjustment. So yeah, I love that analogy and I'm definitely going to be using that. So thank you so much for sharing it. And how cool. Now you'll have those experiences too. And it's
Oh, I
just
love it.
that peace that you have with riding your bike with your child. So
Well,
yeah,
and
of
it's hard. I don't have um uh I have other things to be doing during that time.
course,
Um,
there's always something to do.
there's always
Always.
something to do, and
Yes.
they're lesser.
Yeah.
They're
Mhm.
just lesser
Yeah.
than spending time with my son first thing in the morning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. So as you continue to make these adjustments in life and in business, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or where do you see your business?
It depends on so many variables.
Mhm.
So as I said earlier, so I have ADD, which has been a whole struggle and thing in its own for the last 20 years.
Mhm.
Um, but I um, at some point I will max out the number of the ways that I can stay interested with what I'm doing right now. I
Mhm.
will probably always be somewhat involved in the industry that I'm in. I
Mhm.
love it. I have many friends in this industry. I love lots of things about it.
Mhm.
But I try to be realistic with the limitations that the way that my brain is wired.
Mm.
Um, those put limitations on me in terms of how long I'm able to do a thing.
Yeah.
And so in 5 years, I don't know. Will I sell my company in 5 years? Will I have found some other new ways to make it interesting and exciting and profitable for myself, for my employees? I don't know. Will we move out of California? Maybe. My wife and I are both from Colorado. Maybe we'll move back to Colorado. I love woodworking. Maybe I'll become a professional woodworker and make like, $12,000 a year, you
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
because it's kind of hard to be professional at work. I don't know if I'd ever make a lot of money doing that, but there's so many different ways this could go. It just kind of depends on what happens in maybe the next 3 years.
Okay. All right. Well, stay tuned, everybody.
Stay tuned.
Yes. So the last thing I wanted to ask, do you have any special offers or any announcements or anything that you'd like to share with those who are watching?
We are very consultative in the way that we approach all of our work. Oftentimes, when we're doing ground penetrating radar or just using whatever technology is appropriate for finding things underground, oftentimes we're just looking for rebar in concrete. We're looking for water lines underground, and it's pretty straightforward stuff. It's we need to dig a hole here, help us to make sure we don't break any pipes and make the 5 o'clock news. Then we say, okay, we can do that. But we're very good at, because I know how to recognize resources to keep my business afloat and to make up for my lacks, for my lack. That also means that we're very good at recognizing how to solve problems. So what I would say is that we are among the most consultative subsurface investigation companies that you'll ever come across.
Yeah.
So if there's something odd about understanding what's in your concrete or understanding what's underground, we are very, very good at understanding how to create a solution around that. Or frankly, bringing it back to reality and saying like, well, actually, Mr. Customer, we can't scan with GPR down to 50 miles deep. So I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to help you with this one. But oftentimes we're just very, very good at coming up with solutions for unique problems.
Right. And now how can people get in touch with you or with Enhanced Scanning?
So enhancedscanning.com for sure. We're in the middle of just a complete rebuild on our website, but our website is still up and everything, but it'll look even cooler November or December of this year. But you can go to enhancedscanning.com. We have contact information there. I'm also very active on LinkedIn and post a lot of things there. And so you can find Forrest Sim or Enhanced Scanning on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And happy to connect with anybody about work or otherwise.
Right. Awesome. One last question I have is, do you have any special offers or do you have any updates that you'd like to share with those watching?
Yeah, we have, you can obviously contact us through LinkedIn, go to our website, enhancedscanning.com. We are very happy to connect with people there. We are also starting a podcast. We actually just started it. Our first episode is airing. I don't know if it might already be aired by the time this podcast or this interview airs right here, but it's called Concrete Conversations, a construction podcast. It's my wife and I. We're both interviewing guests. Julie, maybe we can have you on as a guest sometime.
Great, we're happy to.
But we'll be interviewing guests. It's kind of directed towards the AEC industry, the architecture, engineering, construction industry. We'll surely be talking about subsurface things like ground penetrating radar, but we just like to talk with interesting people who have interesting stories and mostly related to the construction industry. So you can check us out on Spotify or YouTube or LinkedIn concerning that podcast too.
Thank you so much. Well, we can't wait to see, of course, what's in store over the next three to 5 years and beyond for you. So thank you so much again, Forrest, for your time today and sharing your journey and tips and, opening up about your areas that you have sought support and resources and given people hopefully some ideas on that, and that you don't have to do everything and business does not mean busyness. So thank you again. And thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.